We broke the news Monday that 4 migrant boats were intercepted off our coast this week.
Bahamas.
On board 30 Chinese nationals, including 2 children, 5 Bahamians, and 168 kilograms of cocaine.
Definitely. County Sheriff's Office uncovered what they say is a smuggling operation involving more than 30 people. Several law enforcement agencies worked together after learning a group of men was planning to travel to the Bahamas to pick up illegal drugs and, quote, smuggle undocumented immigrants into the U.S.
Since that time, since President Trump's gotten into office, the southern border obviously has been shut down. So people are going to find other ways, like water. People find the path of least resistance. So what we've seen is the Bahamas has really relaxed a lot of their immigration. And so people are going there as kind of a launching point to get here to the United States. So we do have a border here in Florida. It's our coastline. And so our Marine unit's out here. But the biggest thing is working with our federal partners. You know, when I came into office, those relationships had been pretty much severed. We were not working on any task force with the DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals. We've kind of revitalized all of those. And we are just now working full steam ahead with those partners. And this is what's the payoff is. So it's just
Florida's coastline, long celebrated for its beauty, has become a battlefield. In 2025, those waters turned into the front line of America's war against smuggling. Federal agents intercepted 4 migrant boats off Fort Pierce, and what they found shocked even seasoned investigators. On board, 30 Chinese nationals, including 2 children, 5 Bahamian crewmen, and hidden beneath supplies 370 pounds of cocaine, 168 kilos, a shipment worth millions, designed to move silently into American cities. This wasn't random. It was organized, deliberate, and global. A pipeline stretching from China through the Bahamas and straight into U.S. waters. A system built to exploit gaps, combining narcotics with human cargo profit layered over desperation. Authorities say it's one of the most sophisticated smuggling channels uncovered in recent years. The first clues appear ordinary. An Airbnb in Fort Pierce, men renting rooms, coming and going. Nothing unusual until sheriffs looked closer, until federal task forces connected movements across counties, until surveillance revealed a pattern that didn't fit. What looked like vacation traffic was in fact cartel logistics. Florida knows smuggling. From the drug wars of the 1,980 seconds to today's synthetic pipeline, its 1,350 miles of coastline have always been vulnerable. But this case is different, more intricate, more reckless, more dangerous. If a network can push both people and narcotics across one of the most heavily watched borders in the U.S., what does that say about the fight against organized crime? How deep does this network run? This operation is more than a single bust. It's a warning. A snapshot of a battle where cartels adapt faster than the systems built to stop them. Tonight, we open that story. The arrests, the evidence, and the haunting question of what else may already have slipped through America's front door. It started with a quiet house in Fort Pierce, an Airbnb tucked into a suburban street, rented by a group of men who looked like any other travelers. Neighbors saw suitcases, cars coming and going, nothing more. But investigators noticed the patterns. Too many late-night arrivals, too many short stays, too many cell phones lighting up at once. What looked like vacation traffic was in fact the command center. Federal task forces began to piece it together. This wasn't leisure, it was logistics. Surveillance teams tracked movements to the marina. From there, the plan unfolded. Boats were prepared to cross into the Bahamas, pick up human cargo and cocaine, then return under the cover of darkness. Sheriff's deputies worked alongside ICE and Homeland Security, comparing timelines, matching names, connecting bank transfers to suspicious rentals. One lead pointed to 5 Bahamian crewmen, ready to ferry the loads. Another linked cell data to Chinese nationals already staged for pickup. Suddenly, the Airbnb wasn't just a rental, it was a staging ground for international crime. The question hangs heavy. How many other ordinary homes across America mask the machinery of smuggling, hiding pipelines that stretch far beyond what a single bust can reveal? 3 boats waited in the shadows, their engines silent, their paths mapped with precision. On the shore, lookouts scanned the horizon, ready to signal if patrol lights cut across the waves. The Airbnb in Fort Pierce, once just a rental, had become a command post. To outsiders, it looked like tourists enjoying Florida Sunday. In reality, it was a staging hub for a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. Each passenger from China was charged up to $35,000 for the journey. Families mortgaged futures for a promise of entry. But this wasn't just human smuggling. Hidden among the bodies, sealed in plastic and wrapped in tarps, lay 370 pounds of cocaine. A dual cargo people and narcotics moved like commodities in a global trade. The scheme relied on camouflage. Legal services, Airbnb rentals, boat charters, money transfers were used as cover, making the operation look legitimate until the final moment. Investigators say this model treated crime like business. Profit margins, logistics, supply chains, but instead of goods, the pipeline carried flesh and poison. If an international cartel can blend so easily into everyday commerce, turning rental homes into hubs and tourist boats into trafficking vessels, how many other businesses hide the machinery of smuggling in plain sight? 5:30 a.m., Fort Pierce Inlet. The sky was still dark, the tide pushing against the jetties, when the boats made their move. 3 vessels cut through the water, their silhouettes barely visible. What the crews didn't know, federal and local agents were already in place, waiting. For weeks, they had tracked the Airbnb, the marina visits, the cell phone chatter. Now, at dawn, the trap closed. The first 2 boats never made it far. Interdiction teams swarmed, flashing lights piercing the gray morning. Officers boarded quickly, weapons drawn, commands shouted in English and Spanish. Within minutes, dozens of passengers sat on the deck, hands raised, fear etched on their faces. 30 Chinese nationals pulled from the cramped hulls, 5 Bahamian crewmen restrained on the spot. Beneath tarps, agents uncovered the real prize. 370 pounds of cocaine brick after brick, each wrapped tight, worth millions on the street. But one vessel tried to slip away. Its captain veered hard toward open water, testing whether the net had a hole. It didn't. Patrol boats surged in, cutting off the escape. The chase was short, decisive, a reminder that the smugglers had backup plans, but so did law enforcement. Among the detainees, agents discovered 2 children. Their presence stripped away any illusion that this was just business. It was exploitation, ruthless and calculated, mixing narcotics with human lives. The bust was hailed as a joint success. ICE, Homeland Security, and the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office working hand in hand. Yet the images linger. Dawn raids, terrified faces, children caught in a game of profit and power. And the question remains, if this was only one pipeline stopped, how many more are still running silently beneath America's horizon? The raid at Fort Pierce wasn't the work of one badge, but many. On the docks and in the patrol boats stood an unlikely alliance, county sheriffs, federal agents, wildlife officers, even highway patrol troopers. Each had a role, each knew the stakes. Together, they formed a net wide enough to catch an international cartel in mid-operation. St. Lucie County Sheriff Richard Del Toro put it bluntly, "Florida has its own border, our coastline. We will not let criminals exploit it." His words carried more than local weight. They reflected a growing strategy. Treat the state's waters as front lines. Guarded with the same urgency as land crossings in Texas or Arizona. Agents from Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, the DEA, and Fish and Wildlife executed a plan rehearsed over weeks. Highway patrol units locked down the roads leading from the marina, ensuring no ground escape. Deputies tracked suspects from rental houses to launch sites. And when the boats moved, all channels lit up federal and local voices meshing into one command. The significance went beyond the bust itself. For years, cooperation between agencies had been strained, different mandates, overlapping jurisdictions, communication gaps. But this operation signaled a reset. Partnerships with the DEA, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshal Service were not just back on paper, they were back in action. In a world where smuggling pipelines cross oceans and borders with ease, no single agency can stand alone. Florida's Dawn raid proved the point. United forces can strike faster, tighter, stronger. But it also raised the sobering question, if it takes this much firepower to stop one convoy, what will it take to dismantle the countless others already hidden along America's 1,350-mile coastline? The numbers tell a story more alarming than any single raid. As land borders tightened under Trump-era crackdowns, cartels simply shifted routes. Smugglers no longer pinned their hopes on fences and checkpoints, they turned to the sea and the sky. Here's how it works. Migrants fly legally to the Bahamas, visas stamped and papers clean. From there, small boats take over, ferrying both people and narcotics across the narrow channel into Florida. The pipeline looks ordinary. Commercial flights, rented vessels, tourist routes, but beneath the surface it's an industrial system built to exploit loopholes. The shift is visible in the statistics. In July 2024, U.S. agents recorded 453 drug seizures at land borders. By July 2025, that number collapsed to just 33. On paper, it looks like success. In reality, it signals displacement. Because at sea, the curve is rising sharply, over 800 maritime smuggling incidents in just the first half of 2025, on pace to smash records by year's end. And the profits are staggering. Each migrant pays up to $30,000 for passage, feeding criminal networks millions for every boatload. Add cocaine shipments worth millions more, and the incentive becomes unstoppable. What looks like scattered arrests is actually the edge of a booming black economy, organized crime evolving faster than law enforcement. Florida's coastline has become the soft underbelly, a liquid border more porous than desert sand. And the question lingers, chilling in its simplicity. If hundreds of boats are crossing each year, how many have already made it through unseen, carrying not just drugs and migrants, but threats that numbers alone can't measure? Rows of cocaine bricks stacked on a dock, their plastic wrappings gleaming under the morning sunday. Faces pressed against patrol boat rails, 30 migrants pulled from the sea, their journey ending not in freedom, but in handcuffs. 2 children wrapped in emergency blankets, silent in the chaos. This is the image left behind after the Fort Pierce operation, a reminder that smuggling is no longer a border issue, it is a global business. The tools are modern. Airbnb rentals that disguise safe houses as tourist getaways. Commercial flights that carry migrants legally to the Bahamas before the handoff. Coordinated lookout crews with radios and phones. Cross-national logistics that resemble corporate supply chains. What once looked like crime in the shadows now borrows the structure of legitimate enterprise. Authorities are blunt. The U.S. Coast Guard issued a warning. Anyone attempting to enter the United States illegally by sea will be intercepted and returned. And that promise carries weight. Those who paid up to $30,000 for passage now face deportation, sent back across the Pacific, their money lost, their future erased. The real winners? The cartels that orchestrate the scheme, growing richer, harder to dismantle, always searching for the next loophole. The Fort Pierce bust shows that smugglers adapt, but so does America. Federal, state, and local forces prove that with coordination, they can strike at the heart of international pipelines. Yet the battle is not static. Smugglers will change routes, refine methods, exploit new technologies. The question is not whether they will try again, but when and how prepared we will be. Behind every raid is a larger truth. Organized crime is evolving faster than politics, faster than policy. The profits are too high, the risks too low.